The big news of the past week was that ADT was purchasing Broadview Security. Broadview Security has previously been known as Brinks Home Security following a spinoff from the Brinks Corporation. Tyco, ADT's parent firm, announced it was paying almost $2 billion, roughly $42.50 per share of Broadview stock, to Broadview shareholders to purchase the company. This creates by far the largest monitoring and installing firm specializing in the alarm business. ADT previously held that spot and still will. Broadview had been the second largest. Protection One had been the third. So this combines the number one and number two companies in the alarm installation and monitoring business. It's quite the deal for our industry. Experts predict that this is worth about 30% of the total market share for alarm monitoring. As if the sale of Broadview Security to ADT wasn't enough big news for this week, we learned the following day, on January 20th, that Protection One, considered the third largest in account of alarm monitoring companies, has hired JPMorgan, the bank JPMorgan, to investigate the possible sale of its own company. According to CEO Richard Ginsburg, this is not coming from any pressure from shareholders, but the company does, of course, receive offers, he says, from time to time, from companies inside our business, outside the business, or even from just investment companies in general. And he said this was a prudent time to investigate the potential sale of a firm. There's no timeline on when that might happen. One thing's for sure, it would be a big sale for the industry. Protection One has recurring monthly revenues, that's the RMR, of over $25 million. And it projects annualized revenues of about $370 million. That's based on the company's third quarter 2009 revenues. Protection One right now is owned primarily by two investment companies, private equity firms I should say, Quadrangle Capital Partners and Monarch Alternative Capital. The rest of the company is owned by shareholders. CEO Richard Ginsburg said the potential of the sale was not affected by the ADT-Broadview deal. The news from the Transportation Security Administration this week is that the TSA will continue to be without leadership. President Obama's nomination for TSA Secretary Errol Southers has withdrawn his name. Southers had come under criticism from Senator Jim DeMint, Republican of South Carolina, for Southers' stance supporting collective bargaining and unionization for TSA employees. Southers also had been criticized by senators for his inappropriate use of criminal background check tools in researching a boyfriend of his ex-wife. There's no word yet on who President Obama will pick as his next nominee for Secretary of the TSA. Integrators looking for a new source of business may want to consider the transportation industry, and I'm talking about locomotives. The National Transportation Safety Board, following an investigation into the 2008 crash of a commuter train and a freight train in Chatsworth, Illinois, that they blamed on the Metrolink engineer who was sending a text message from his cell phone after he passed a stop point. The NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, has recommended that firms install surveillance cameras and mobile video recorders in the engineering compartments of locomotives, with the idea that they can record the incidents or the operations that are going on in those situations. Mainly, of course, that is for investigation purposes. Obviously, that's not going to prevent a train wreck, but it's simply an idea for investigating how do you solve the problem of train engineers who are sending text messages or otherwise distracted while on the duty. So again, check that out. Certainly, the panel called for video surveillance. And that means tens of thousands of locomotive control cabs could get CCTV. Go get that business. In other business news this week, Samsung, Techwin, and GVI Security Solutions, better known as Samsung GVI Security Solutions, have announced that they have formed a partnership. What this goes back to is that in January 1st of this year, Samsung Techwin Global announced that it had purchased the product line and R&D efforts from Samsung Electronics in the video surveillance product business. Of course, that's CCTV cameras, IP cameras, analog cameras, and such. So now with those two product lines merged under the Samsung Techwin Global family, it made a natural fit, of course, to bring together Samsung Techwin's USA North American operations with Samsung GVI Security Solutions. Both companies have operated in North and South America. They have, in the past, typically had two different product lines. Now, it has been a little bit of crossover, but typically those have been two separate product lines. You know, one was the product line that was coming out of Samsung Techwin's R&D, and the other product line was the one coming out of Samsung Electronics R&D. So now with those two product lines merged and lots of more products on the way, probably coming out at ISC West, we're seeing a sales partnership and a business partnership very tightly formed between these two companies. I asked them if a acquisition merger might be on the horizon. They said it's too early to tell. ASIS 2010, the annual seminars and exhibits from ASIS International, promises to have a keynote address, two keynote addresses that will be showstoppers in this 2010 show. On October 13th, first keynote address for ASIS International's seminars and exhibits will be pilot Chelsea Sullenberger. This, of course, is the pilot who in January of last year safely landed U.S. Airways Flight 1549 in New York's Hudson's River after the plane experienced an engine failure upon takeoff. He will be speaking on Wednesday, October 13th at 8 a.m. The following day, Thursday, October 14th at 8 a.m., brings former Pakistan President Pervez Musharraf to speak. He served as the President of Pakistan from 2001 to 2008, playing a critical role in the global war on terror, helping the U.S. hunt down al-Qaeda operatives, and aiding in the search for Osama bin Laden. Again, his address is scheduled for Thursday, October 14th at 8 a.m. Two addresses that you certainly don't want to miss.